Hello gardening friends, and welcome back to All About Gardening. My name is Madison, and today we're going to look at 3 easy ways to propagate one of my favorite plants, the snake plant. For those who consider themselves black thumbs, this is the plant you need to be looking for. They're mostly known as snake plants, but also mother-in-law's tongue due to the shape of the sharp and pointed leaves. They were previously part of the Sansevieria genus, but in 2017 were moved to the Dracaena genus. However, in most places, nurseries, online, you'll still find them labeled Sansevierias. What makes these plants so great to grow, and especially for beginners, is that they are very low maintenance and some say almost impossible to kill. They can handle most lighting conditions, and the only thing they really can't stand is being overwatered. In fact, the less attention you give them, the better. Another benefit of these wonderful plants is that they are super easy to propagate in many ways, but today we're going to look at 3 of them. The first is by leaf cutting, then we'll look at division, and the last through pups. The first propagating method we're going to look at today is leaf cuttings. This is one of the most common methods because you can get so many plants out of one session and even one single leaf, but it does take a little bit longer than some of the other methods to grow into a full plant. It is just as easy as the others though. All you're going to look for is a healthy leaf that doesn't really have any signs of damage or disease. You can cut those out, but it's better to have a strong leaf from the start. You're going to use either your shears, or I like to use a small craft knife to just get as clean a cut as possible. And all you're going to do is cut it off at the base. These aren't going to grow back, so you want to keep them as close to the base as possible just to make sure the plant still looks tidy and balanced. Because the plant I have here is relatively small and only has 2 long leaves, I decided to go out into the garden and get a long leaf from one of the more established plants. You can propagate from any size leaf, but the longer the leaf, the more cuttings you'll be able to get at once, and the more plants you'll be able to propagate. You can use any tools to remove the leaf at the base. Pruning shears, sharp scissors. I like to use these little craft knives because it makes the next step much easier. So once you've got your entire leaf, you're going to spread it out and cut it into around about 4-inch sections. You can make them longer to anchor into the soil better, but ultimately the length is up to you. So all you're going to do is lay it flat and cut as straight as you possibly can into the leaf to separate the cutting. So there's one. I'm going to put this direction, and this one's not really a problem because it's got a point at the end. However, once you start getting into these cuttings, both ends will look the same. So it's very important to make sure you place them all the right way so that you can plant them root side down. If you tend to forget, you can always get a marker and just mark the top of the leaf so that you know which direction to plant in. So all I'm going to do is cut the rest of these leaves into small sections and place them root side down. With your leaf cuttings prepared, the only thing left to do is to plant them. So I'm going to bring in this pot here. You can put all your cuttings in the same pot until they grow roots and then transplant them out later. In this bucket here, I've got some succulent potting soil, but you can also make your own by mixing regular potting soil with sand and perlite to improve drainage and make the conditions closer to what they would have in their native habitats. So I'm going to fill this pot all the way up. And get it ready for planting. Now, couldn't be easier. All you need to do is pick up your cuttings, root side down, and push them into the soil. They only need a little bit of space to anchor. The less the better, because then there's less chances of rotting. And you're just going to place them all around the pot, root side down. Wherever you can find a space, you can fill it up until they are all planted. Now they're all anchored and ready to go. All that's left to do is to water, moisten the soil, and encourage root growth. Now that the cuttings are planted, you need to move them to a warm and humid spot to encourage root growth. It'll take a couple of weeks. A few weeks ago, I propagated this leaf, and just to show you what the roots will look like, when you pull them out, you should see root growth at the base. I also planted one upside down, just so that you can see what happens if you forget which side the roots are, and there's no root growth, the bottom is yellowed. That's never going to turn into a full plant. But the rest of these all have strong roots. We can remove some of that soil and plant each of these into their own individual pots to continue growing. That's all you need to propagate from leaf cuttings. Super easy, takes about 5 minutes, and from that process we're going to get 5 brand new healthy snake plants. The next propagation process we're going to look at is division. For that, I'm going to bring in this terribly sad and neglected snake plant that I have here. That's not even actually planted in this terracotta pot. It's in an even smaller plastic pot. This snake plant has been sitting in this greenhouse for a while, getting very little attention. The leaves look sad, some of them are turning yellow, and if you squeeze the pot, it's incredibly hard. I think if I left this any longer, it would probably crack the pot. You can also see there's tons of roots growing above the soil, a very bad sign and an indication that it is in desperate need of division. Division is a task best left when your plant is mature and needs repotting. That's because you'll have to take this plant out of its pot, separate it, get rid of the soil. So it's easiest to combine 2 processes at once and divide when it's time to repot. To get started, all I'm going to do is squeeze the sides of this pot, not that it really needs it, and pull this out of its container. You can see here that the roots are very overgrown. There's even parts on this side where they were growing above the soil and starting to develop new pups outside of the soil. So we can separate this plant into several plants all in one go. Once you've removed the plant from the pot and taken a look at the roots, the next step is to remove the soil. Now, you can be sort of rough with the roots here because we're going to get rid of most of these when we repot, and you're just trying to get a closer look at where those divisions would be. Just going to pull apart. You don't want to damage the roots too much, but they can take quite a beating and they will still grow back bigger and stronger. Once I removed the soil, I just washed all the excess off under the tap. It's not really a necessary step, but it does let you see where the divisions are a bit more clearly. You can even see, once the soil's gone, where the plant was divided last time and where I cut it to split it into 2 plants when I propagated previously. So now that we can clearly see, you're going to decide where to cut or where to pull off the plant. So this division here already looks like it wants to come off. Very easy. All you're going to do is pull, separate it, and you've got a brand new plant there. That's number 1. But not all of them are going to go as easily. For example, we've got a leaf here that's got some roots attached to it, but it's obviously very strong. In that case, you're going to need to grab your craft knife and get ready to cut into the crown. To separate each division, you're going to need to bring back your sharp knife. This one is probably not heavy duty enough for this process, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. So for each division, you can separate it as many times as you want, as long as each section has enough roots to grow on its own. If it doesn't have enough roots, it means it's still getting all of its nutrients from the main plant, and it won't be able to function if it's separated. So with this single leaf here, you can see on this side that there are plenty of roots on this section here, so that it will be able to grow on its own. So I'm going to go from this angle, and all you're going to do is cut in from the bottom and separate it into a brand new section. This one comes off of the last section that we had. There's another cut that was made there, but it still has plenty of roots, so this will be able to grow into a full plant. With that division separated, we've got 2 new plants so far. We can cut many more, but I want to take the chance to talk about the third method of propagation, which is from pups. Snake plants spread naturally by producing pups next to the main plant. You can see that one was starting to develop here above the soil, but we've got a full one over here that's essentially a tiny version of the main plant. These emerge from the base of the soil, and you should see them pop up as your plant grows bigger. All you need to do for these, it's the same as the process of division, is either pull them apart if they can be pulled apart, which this one can. It's even growing its own pup over here. Or if you need to, you can just cut into them from above the soil. So we've got a full entire snake plant there, just from pulling it away from the main plant. Now all I'm going to do is cut into these to make as many divisions as I can with the many roots we've got going here to get as many plants as possible. I managed to separate the very sad plant that we started with into 4 much healthier divisions, and in the process I removed any of those damaged and stretched out leaves just to give these divisions the best start at new growth. Now all that's left to do is pot them up. So I'm going to take the succulent soil potting mix that we used earlier to fill up this pot. And then I'm just going to make a hole in the center, burying the plant, making sure I don't bury too much of the leaves, and then pressing down gently just to anchor it in place. Don't compact it too much because these plants lack their drainage. Then for the second one, I'm going to pot up one of the pups that we've removed. And this pot is a lot larger than one you need, but the larger you go, the less likely you will need to repot later. These plants are vigorous growers. So if I kept it in a smaller pot, maybe the existing one we started with, I would probably need to repot within a couple of months. So I filled this pot up. I'm going to take one of these pups, same process, make a hole in the center, bury the plant, making sure the roots are spread out, fill in with soil, and then press around to anchor it in place. Again, not pressing down too hard. So we've got these 2 potted up. All that's left to do is water to encourage new root growth and help get rid of any large air pockets that may be in the soil. And there we have 2 brand new snake plants from 1. Once I've potted up these, we will have even more. It really is that easy to grow as many snake plants as you could possibly want at absolutely no cost. If you have large leaves, propagate from leaf cuttings. If your plant needs repotting, propagate from division, or let the snake plant do all the hard work for you and propagate from pups. For detailed instructions, you can go to our website, allaboutgardening.com, and check out our other YouTube videos and more content coming up.